We're heading off bright and early to explore parts of southwest Garo Hills. Welcome to another edition of Wanderlust. Let's go! Passing through the road leading to southwest Garo Hills, one can't help but marvel at the open paddy fields on both sides of the road, rivulets flowing without a care in the world, and immaculately planted trees giving the road a picturesque view. Right now we're passing through the town of Garo Bada, which is about half an hour away from Tura, and this is a main hub or a local market area which happens every Tuesday, and you can find traders and shoppers from all over Garo Hills coming here and doing their shopping every week on Tuesdays. Guess where I am today, guys? Right now, I'm here at this international border that India shares with Bangladesh, here at Kalaichar village. And every Wednesday, something interesting happens. The international gates right there open up so that traders from India can go to no man's land with their goods and have an open trade with their Bangladeshi counterparts. Only traders with valid license from the government can enter this marketplace. We can go talk to the traders before they enter the market, so let's go. I soon arrived at a very unlikely marketplace. I could already see quite a few traders unloading bags full of goods ready to be sold. The most widely traded items here are supposed to be ginger, areca nut, and even cumin seeds, and a whole ton of spices which crosses the border to the Bangladesh side. As you can see, there are tons of bags of gingers and cumin seeds which have already arrived, but there are still more to come as there are more traders still on the way, ready to cross the border into the market. Since we're close to the winter season here, I've been very fortunate to come across these mustard flowers beautifully blooming on my journey. And knowing me, I couldn't help but stop to walk amongst this beautiful mustard plant garden. So let us experience the beauty. The sea of yellow flowers almost made me feel like I was on the sets of some famous movie. Can you guess the famous Bollywood movie scene that made mustard flower gardens iconic? As we headed out next towards Mahendraganj, there was nothing but a sea of yellow all throughout the way, all along the international border. This land is indeed beautiful. Very few people know that there is a dargah with an interesting story in Garo Hills. Well, I wanted to know about the place, so I started my ascent to the dargah. I had to climb quite a few steps which were tiring, but the end was very rewarding. As a sign of respect, visitors must open their shoes before entering the dargah. I'm right now here at the Dargah Sharif, or a place of prayer. According to myths and legends, once upon a time, a demon came and occupied this land and harassed the community people and the king Shah Alam. But one day, a soothsayer or a tantric came and made this demon vanish. And as a sign of gratitude, the king gifted this land as well as the whole region for the tantric. Until this day, people have built this dargah as a sign and as a place of prayer and worship, where they come here almost every Sunday or any other days of the week to offer their prayers. Since this place of worship is built along the border and it happens to fall on the Indian side of the land, this place is sacred to both the citizens in India as well as in Bangladesh, and that is why the people of Bangladesh have actually cleared a small land for themselves from where they even offer up their prayers, and they still have a view of this worship place. It is quite encouraging to see young people and people of all faiths visiting this place without any inhibitions. Well, that was quite a humbling experience for me to see people of two countries sharing the same history and worship grounds. Next, I was headed to the famous Khattabil, also known as Chimate in the local dialect. I was greeted by a sight of a packed picnic spot filled with students enjoying their holidays. A short distance from the Dargah, we have landed here at Khattabil, also known as Chimate in the local dialect. This lake was dug up by the king in the olden days for his bathing purposes. But nowadays, the government has turned this into a children's park, and there are a lot of picnickers about, a lot of children, and I thought I would enjoy this simple boat ride. It was quite a relaxing moment to paddle around the lake. Children who are not old enough to ride the boats need not worry, as there's a children's park adjacent to the lake. After the lake, I headed off to visit another hidden gem in southwest Garo Hills, the Kamakya temple. No, this isn't the famous Kamakya in Guwahati, this is in Takuran, Bari. So guys, now I have reached the Kamakya temple here in the village of Takunbari near Mankachar. This is one of the oldest temples here in Garo Hills, and devotees from near and far come to offer their prayers here. I'm going to go have a look around, so why don't you join me? According to Hindu mythology, the Hindu worshippers held the belief that this was the place where Shiv's wife Sati's belly button fell after her death and her body parts were thrown everywhere, similar to how it is in Kamakya temple in Assam. The Hindu worshippers believe that this site is more than 300 years old, but this temple was constructed in 1934 and the gate below the entrance was constructed in 1955. Takuran Bari has got quite a few places of historical importance, as you will see what I am talking about next. Another surprising fact about Takuran Bari here in Mankachar is that we found this tombstone for the great army general known as Mir Jumla, who was the general during the Mughal Empire Aurangzeb's time. He died here unfortunately on his expeditions to northeast in 1663, and his earthly remains have been preserved here since. And this tomb, as well as the area around it, is maintained by the local Muslim community, where there is not only this tomb here, but there is a masjid, a madrasa, as well as an open place where the Eid prayer takes place for the community. About 15 minutes away from Garo, we have reached this Mandir known as the Chenga Benga Mandir, which is also surrounded by a park. According to history and legends, Chenga and Benga were the two ministers of the king known to have superpowers or spiritual powers, and that was why people considered them saints, and hence this mandir was built in their honor to worship them. Every year in the months of March and April, a religious mela or a fair happens in these grounds. I was glad to discover that this place was a peaceful place of worship, not really overrun with tourists. I enjoyed a quiet stroll around the compound, which was quite vast. One can visit this place to wind down from the hustle and bustle of the crowd. I even got to let out the inner child in me in the park. One important historical site that is still somewhat of a virgin tourist spot happens to be at Wadagokgre in southwest Garo Hills, and I headed there to learn more about the place. Now we're here in the village of Wadagokgre, and I'm here to explore the ruins of the ancient Kamrupa kingdom, which scholars believe to be from the 10th century BC. Only a few sites have been discovered and excavated so far, so we are going to have a look around and see what we can find out for ourselves. My first stop on the way to the historical site of the Kamrupa civilization was actually this stupa, which scholars believe to belong to the Buddhist religion. And many scholars believe that since the Brahmaputra river used to flow along these banks, they believe that this stupa was constructed by the missionaries who were sent by King Ashoka to the Far East. This point right here was the first site of excavation that was taken up by the Archaeological Survey. This ruin behind me was supposedly thought to be the first temple where many of the terracotta plaques and tiles depicting the gods and goddesses of the ancient kingdom were found. This is the northern side, and on the southern side they also found sacrificial stones which were probably red in color due to the drying up of the blood. Next, I headed over to one of the greatest finds in this entire site, a place which was fairly still whole and not completely damaged like the other sites. I met with the caretaker, Mr. Nirvesh, to learn more about the famous site where Shiva was worshipped, and he explained to me that the rocks were the original finds which have survived rain, shine and destruction. The rocks with the hollow middle were part of the Shivlinga to denote the unification of the male and female. This octagonal temple was believed to be the Shiv temple where the main worship took place. A little distance away from the first temple, we come to this octagonal temple, or something which the locals and the excavators have called the Shiv temple. Out of the few temples that were excavated, this was the biggest find that were made by the Archaeological Survey of India. The unique thing about this temple is that it had a shrine which had 8 sides or octagonal sides to it, and out of each side you had 8 arms coming out. On each 8th arm you had the yoni and the Shiva in perfect harmony, indicating probably the goodness of the people around and in the kingdom. I sat down to have a chat with the caretaker, who explained about the sturdiness of the bricks on the wall, which have stood strong for many centuries. The site has drawn many students eager to learn more about the Kamrupa dynasty in the Garo Hills region. This land where I'm standing on right now used to be a part of the first wall, the mud wall, which ran around the kingdom. the wall was built all the way from where you can see I'm pointing, and it would come around and go around the kingdom there. Unfortunately, with the civilization and with the onset of people encroaching this kingdom, people have made a pathway in the middle, and they have made their paddy fields out here. And around this, beyond this first wall, there used to be a moat or a river that would run around the palace, the kingdom, and beyond that would be what you would have, the higher second wall, which was made out of bricks. Till date, you can actually see where the second wall, the higher wall, used to go around the kingdom. And if you go closer, you can actually see some of the bricks that are remaining from that century. This is actually part of the brick wall that we saw earlier, which the caretaker was telling me about. The second wall, the fortification wall which went around the kingdom, was, as he said earlier, 18 feet high and 5 feet wide. And till date now you can see some of the parts of the wall which are still lying exposed. Unfortunately, due to civilization and people encroaching on this land, people have made a hole through the wall, and they have made this into a roadway for most of the bullock carts as well as the vehicles to pass through, and that is why you can see parts of these walls are already getting damaged.
From the Shiv temple, we headed to an open field which on first glance would look like a paddy field, but which was in fact the lake of the ruling king. It was dug out in a square shape. Some of the imprinted rocks which ran along the edges could still be seen in bits and pieces around the lake. The steps on the lake face towards the east, where the king would greet the rising sun while stepping out in the morning for his bath.
Well guys, this has been a fun edition for me again to take you around parts of Southwest Garo Hills, and I hope you've enjoyed your time with me as well. From the banks of the Jinjiram River, this is your host signing out. Tune in next time. Bye-bye.